Welcome everyone to the game of young Aarit Kapil. This youngster who's 10 years old will turn 11 in September 2026. He's born in 2015 and here he is playing at the Abu Dhabi Masters. Aarit is right now on 2.5 points out of 6. His opponent isn't here. He starts the clock for himself. His opponent is the only international master and the top rated player from Thailand, Prin Laohawirapap. And there you have Prin comes in. He gives his hand for a handshake, but Aarit is busy with his meditation before the game and a handshake there. Off we go. Aarit taking his time. He's down to 1 hour 29 minutes. Plays knight to f3. One of India's brightest young talents is this boy. And I'm always very keen to see him in action. And let's see how he fares today against quite a strong player who's around right now 82 ELO points rated above him. Prin adjusts all his pieces. Aarit already has 2 IM norms. His latest one came at the Serbia Open just a few days ago. So he's in a hurry, you could say. And if he manages to get his third IM norm here, he'll get closer to becoming an IM. I don't think he can do it in the next few days under 11 years, but he would be very quick in general to achieve that. B3, D5 played. Now, this B3 variation is interesting because he puts his bishop on this long diagonal. Bishop comes out to f5 and looks at the c2 square, and Aarit goes g3, the double fianchetto. We have e6 by Prin, and it's so flexible, this entire system. You can put your pawn here, e3. I mean, there's so many possibilities. In fact, Pragnananda has been playing this recently. We've seen him do that in rapid and blitz events. He goes c4, e3, something like that. But maybe the bishop is not on f5. h6 played to make space for the bishop to go back to h7. Aarit does push his pawn to c4. And I guess one of the solid ways to play in such positions is to put your pawn on c6. Then you have some sort of a granite structure in the center. Aarit goes rook e1. And I guess he is angling for d3, knight d2 and e4. a5 played by Prin. He is trying to get counterplay with a4. Aarit goes d3. a4 still possible, but he first puts his bishop back to h7. And now knight to d2. Yes, knight comes to d2. Knight comes to d7. And now a3 played. So that when a4 is played, you can meet it with b4. And he does play a4, which is a slight inaccuracy because Aarit had prepared for it in the last move. So I'm a bit surprised that Prin goes a4. I'm sure Aarit is just simply going to push his pawn forward. Let's look at Aarit's expression. Not much. He just plays b4. He's playing quickly. He has 1 hour 25 minutes. Prin has 1 hour 16 minutes. And now c5. That was what Prin wanted. He wanted to strike here on the queen side. Now, if you take knight takes, seems like a fair call there. But Aarit takes on d5. ed5 also possible, but it will be left with an isolated pawn. Knight takes d5 was also playable. He takes here, and now Aarit takes on c5. And I guess Prin can take with the knight, with the bishop. Both are possible. He takes with the knight. He's eyeing the b3 weakness. And if you ever play d4, the bishop will open up. So Aarit goes knight d4 and says, my knight is going to be stable on this square as you have no pawns on e and c file. Rook comes to e8. And now he plays rook b1. Ooh, there are weaknesses here on the c file. On the b file, sorry. Rook c8. Prince says, well, there are weaknesses on the c file as well. So let me put it here. Oh, and the bishop pops out from this way. Okay. The rook has to move now. Rook c7. But then is knight b5 a problem? Yes, he plays rook c7. And Aarit is actually positionally outplaying his opponent here. He goes knight to b5, attacking the rook. The rook has to come forward. Rook c6. So he's not trapped. I mean, a4 pawn does look a bit weak, but the knight is protecting it. He plays bishop c3. Wow, that's a cool move, because now with bishop b4, you can put it here. And a tactic. What's happening exactly? Prince said the pressure was getting too much, but I can do something. He takes here. Pawn takes. Aarit is like as calm as a cucumber. He takes here. Right. He's threatening this and to take the knight so that if rook takes c3 is hanging. Got it. So Aarit has to save his knight now, not the rook, because rook b2, bishop b5. But there's bishop f6 intermediate move. Oh, did Prin miss that? Did he miss that bishop takes b5 is met with, he takes on a3. Has Aarit calculated all of this? Knight a3, rook c3. Aarit first takes on e8. Well, Aarit is navigating all the complications quite well and also very quickly. You can see he has 51 minutes. The youngster is a calculating machine. Knight takes a3. And now rook takes c3. Taken. Now, if I take on a4, then there's a check coming in. I don't want that. So knight b1 played. And that's the best move in the position. Wow. The rook is attacked. So bishop takes b1. And simply knight takes b1 to defend the knight on a3. So let's take stock of the situation. Aarit has 3 pawns and 2 minor pieces. Prin has 6 pawns and 1 minor piece. Both have rook and queen. So actually that's a good material balance. But look at this insanely good move. He's threatening now bishop b5 to win this pawn. Also the bishop would stand so well on d3. Prin goes queen e5, attacking the rook here. Well, I wonder where the rook will go. Rook b2, rook a2. He goes rook b4. Sorry, rook b4, rook a2. There is rook b4. a4 is under attack. b5 is not possible. It's hanging. Knight jumps to e4. Usually the consolidation part is a bit tricky because you have your pieces a bit weirdly, awkwardly positioned here. Like they are on their initial squares, all 3 of them, all these pieces. Now the rook took the pawn. Aarit is saying, show me your compensation. b5 played. Prin being very tricky here. If bishop takes b5, maybe he wants to come in, attack here and rook c1. I don't know. So Aarit says, sorry, no tactics. Rook d4. Now queen f6 perhaps. Keeping an eye on d4 and attacking f2. That seems logical. That does seem logical because queen f6, f3, Prin is going for it. Yes, good move. But he only has 4 minutes left. Aarit has 31 minutes on the clock. He plays f3. But there is now a small tactic. Rook c1, queen c1 and queen takes rook. And is the king weak on g1 is the question. He does play it. Prin being Very sharp here, finding some of the ideas which are necessary to keep the game going at least. Aarit says, well, I'm not impressed. I'll take the rook. Queen takes c1. Queen takes d4. And now if king g2, there is queen f2 check. So he first goes to h1. If you give me a check with the knight, I then come up. Knight goes back to d6. And a good stabilizing move now is queen d2. Because the b5 pawn isn't hanging anymore. Queen d2, good move. Queen a1. Pinning on the last rank. Could be a plan. He goes queen c5. And knight c3 played. Okay, d5 pawn is hanging. You can push d4, I think. And that's what Prin does and asks, Aarit, are you going to play knight e4? But knight e2 by Aarit. Oh, he's attacking d4 pawn. Aarit's accuracy has been insane in this game. Knight f5, defending the pawn. Do we have g4, but then knight e3 attacking the bishop? Bishop comes to h3. Attacking here and threatening knight d4. Once the knight comes to d4, the b pawn is not running anywhere. Queen c6, he looks at the f3 square. Aarit can defend with king g2, but you are a bit afraid of knight e3 check. He goes knight g1. Interesting way to defend. He's saying essentially that your f5 knight is hanging, d4 pawn is hanging, you can't save everything. If you play queen d5, I'll take and take on d4. Knight e3, well, that's a big mistake here by Prin. He had to defend the knight with queen d5, but now just queen takes d4 and this is game over. He's lost a key pawn. What was Prin's idea? I'm not yet sure. Aarit looks at the position carefully. He's like, let me think. And he gobbles up the d4 pawn. Queen c1 played. Are there any tactics that are coming in? Check. Maybe even Aarit will go for the b5 pawn with queen d3 check and queen takes b5. And that would leave him up an entire piece up. Not even, black had 3 pawns for a piece. Aarit step by step has eaten all the pawns. Queen b5. Nothing left. h5 played. Queen comes to d7. You have to go and defend it now. Usually in such positions to win, the biggest skill that is needed is patience. Because it's not like you will unravel everything in like few moves. Oh, check. My goodness. This guy is no patience, but such good skills. Exchanges the queens as well. Okay, this is easy now. The rest is just a matter of technique. Prin can simply resign here. What I absolutely loved is how Aarit positionally outplayed his opponent in the opening. And then when his opponent started to unleash tactics, he maintained or managed them also quite well. Knight e2. And now king g1 to f2. King g7. He goes king g1. f6. Knight to d4, threatening a check here. And Aarit still has close to 20 minutes left on the clock. Prin goes knight d5. Bishop comes back to e6. I'm curious how many more moves is Prin going to play here. Bishop comes to c4, and this bishop kind of dominates the knight on c7. King g6. King comes to f2. Step by step improving the position. Knight e8. Check. And yes, this is the right strategy always. Bring all your pieces into the game. Bring all your pieces into the game. Knight c7. And king e4. The king can go to f5, then bishop check, and slowly push him back. Knight e8 in order to meet king f5 with knight check. So he goes to d5. Well, wherever the door opens, you go in. Knight check. King c6. Knight e8, and the king goes in further. Wow. He goes knight to g7. And now knight to f5. Excellent move. Threatening a check. Trading the knights. He takes on f5. And finally, the last piece is traded. Bishop f5. The rest is matter of technique. Aarit wins. Prin resigns. Aarit moves to 3.5 points out of 7. In this tournament, he has had win against GM Monica Sochko, draws against couple of FMs and IMs, and he will be looking to finish the tournament on a high as he has 2 more rounds left. Suyog Wag is going to be his 8th round opponent today. Let's see how Aarit plays, but a huge congratulations for this win.